It started with a sound. Not a scream, not a crash, just laughter. Soft, playful laughter coming from the guest room, a place that should have been silent at that hour. At first I thought I was imagining it. Maybe the TV was left on, maybe my mind was tired. But then I heard it again, a woman's voice, teasing, familiar. My body froze. Lily was sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She looked up when she saw my face. "Mom," she whispered, "why is Aunt Claire's car still outside?" That's when my hands began to shake. Daniel had said he'd help Claire sort through some boxes she stored in our guest room. It wasn't unusual. They were close, too close maybe, but I trusted them both. My husband, my sister, my own blood. Still, something about that laughter. It didn't sound like sorting boxes. I stood up slowly, every nerve alive. "Stay here," I told Lily, but she followed anyway, her bare feet silent on the wooden floor. We walked down the hallway. The laughter stopped. Then came a whisper. Then a sigh. I turned the doorknob. It wasn't locked. And when I opened that door, my world shattered. Daniel and Claire were in bed together. For a second, I didn't breathe. My eyes refused to understand what they were seeing. His shirt on the floor, her hand on his chest. The way they both froze when they saw me standing there, like two thieves caught in the act. Time slowed down. My ears started ringing. I could feel Lily behind me, could hear her breath catch like she'd swallowed glass. "Mom," she whispered. Daniel jumped up, grabbing the blanket. This isn't what it looks like," he stammered. His voice trembled, desperate. Claire's face turned pale. She tried to pull the sheet over herself, but her eyes wouldn't meet mine. My throat felt dry. "Not what it looks like," I repeated. My voice didn't sound like mine. It was hollow, distant. Lily started crying. "Dad, how could you?" Daniel reached toward her, but she stepped back. "Don't touch me." The room smelled of betrayal, sweat and perfume and guilt. I could barely stand. My knees buckled, and I had to hold the doorframe to stay upright. "I trusted you," I whispered. "Both of you." Claire started to sob. "It just happened, please. It was a mistake." "A mistake?" I laughed, but the sound broke halfway. "You don't end up in my husband's bed by mistake." Daniel tried to come closer. "It was one time, okay? I swear. It didn't mean anything." I turned my face away. "Then why does it hurt so much?" Lily ran down the hall, her footsteps echoing. I didn't follow her right away. I couldn't move. My heart was pounding so loud it drowned everything else out. Daniel muttered something, maybe my name, but I didn't listen. I just walked out, numb, my hands trembling uncontrollably. The house felt colder. The walls looked different, like they were watching me fall apart. I found Lily in her room, sitting on the floor, hugging her knees. "Mom," she said between sobs, "how could he do this to you? To us?" I sat beside her, touching her hair gently. I didn't have an answer. All I could say was, "I don't know, sweetheart. I don't know." We stayed like that for hours. No one slept that night. At some point, I heard Daniel knocking softly on the door. "Please, can we talk?" I didn't reply. "Claire's gone," he said. "She left." Good, I thought. She should never come back. But the silence after that was worse than the noise. The next morning, I sat at the kitchen table, staring at my cold coffee. Daniel came in, eyes red, hair messy. "We need to talk," he said again. I didn't look at him. "There's nothing left to say." "There is," he insisted. "I messed up. It was stupid. I don't even know how it happened. She came on to me. Don't you dare blame her." I snapped, finally meeting his eyes. "You're my husband. You were supposed to protect me, not destroy me." He sank into the chair across from me. "I love you," he whispered. I almost laughed. "You love me? You made love to my sister." He winced, his voice cracking. "I was lonely. You've been distant lately." That's when something inside me snapped. Distant. Daniel, I cooked for you, washed your clothes, prayed for you when you were sick. I stood by you when your business failed. And you call that distant? He didn't answer. He just lowered his head, shame written all over his face. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but all I could do was whisper, "You took 20 years of marriage and burned it in one night." He reached for my hand. I pulled away. That was the moment I realized something inside me had died. Later that day, I called my mother. She knew something was wrong from my voice alone. "Claire's been acting strange," she said before I could even start. I couldn't hold it in anymore. "Mom, she slept with Daniel." There was silence, then a sharp gasp. "What did you just say?" I repeated it, each word cutting deeper. My mother began to cry. "Oh God, oh my God, how could she? Your own sister?" "I don't know," I whispered. "I don't know anymore." When I hung up, I felt empty, like my soul had been scraped clean. That night, Daniel slept in the guest room, the same room where I found him with her. I couldn't bear to look at him. Lily refused to speak to him. She stayed in her room, music playing loud enough to drown his voice whenever he tried to apologize through the door. I could hear her crying sometimes. Quiet, angry sobs that broke my heart all over again. 2 days passed before Claire tried to call. I didn't answer. The third time, I did. Her voice was shaking. "Please, just let me explain." "There's nothing to explain," I said coldly. "I didn't mean for it to happen," she said through tears. "He said you were drifting apart. I thought—" "You thought what? That sleeping with your sister's husband would fix it?" She went quiet. I could hear her breathing. "I hate myself," she said. "I wish I could take it back." I hung up. After that, she stopped calling. Days turned into weeks, but the pain didn't fade. It just changed shape. Some mornings I woke up feeling angry, other days numb. But the worst moments were when I caught myself remembering. How Daniel used to hold my hand, how Claire used to laugh with me at family dinners. Every memory felt poisoned now. I started sleeping on the couch. Daniel tried to make amends, cooking breakfast, sending flowers, begging for forgiveness. But every time he said, "I love you," all I heard was her name echoing behind it. Lily, on the other hand, changed in ways I didn't understand. She stopped crying, stopped avoiding him. She started watching him quietly, her face calm but her eyes sharp. Once I asked her, "Are you okay, sweetheart?" She smiled faintly. "Don't worry about me, Mom. I'm just thinking." I didn't ask what about. Maybe I didn't want to know. A week later, I found Daniel sitting in the kitchen, his hands covering his face. "I'm losing everything," he said when he saw me. "The house, my family, please, don't leave me." I looked at him carefully. "You already left me, Daniel. You just forgot to pack your guilt." He started to cry. Real, heavy sobs that might have moved me once. But now, they just made me tired. I walked past him, poured myself a glass of water, and said quietly, "I don't even recognize you anymore." He whispered, "Please, don't give up on us." But I already had. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat by the window, listening to the rain again. The same sound from that night, the night that broke everything. I thought about Lily, how strong she was trying to be, how she looked at me now not as a child, but as someone protecting me. I thought about Claire, where she was, if she regretted it, if she cried herself to sleep. But I didn't pity her. I couldn't. And I thought about Daniel, the man who once promised to grow old with me, who now slept alone in a room that smelled of betrayal. Sometimes I wanted to forgive him, just so I could stop feeling this heaviness. But then I'd remember Lily's tears, her trembling voice saying, "Dad, how could you?" That sound would echo in my mind until sunrise. The following morning, I made breakfast for Lily. She sat down silently, watching me move around the kitchen. "You don't have to pretend everything's okay," she said softly. "I know," I whispered. "But I don't want to fall apart either." She nodded. He doesn't deserve your strength. I looked at her, this young girl who'd just lost her faith in love because of her father. I reached for her hand. Neither do I said. She smiled weakly. I'll never forgive him. Don't say that, I whispered. Forgiveness isn't for them. It's for us. But even as I said it, I knew I didn't believe it. Not yet. That afternoon, I opened the wardrobe and started packing some of Daniel's things. I didn't know if it was temporary or permanent. I just knew I couldn't live in a house filled with ghosts. He walked in halfway through, eyes wide. What are you doing? Making space, I said. Please, don't do this. I'll change. I'll do therapy, whatever you want. I shook my head. You already did what you wanted. He grabbed my hand. I can't lose you. I looked into his eyes, and for the first time, I didn't see my husband. I saw a stranger wearing his face. You already did, I whispered. He let go, stepping back like he'd been struck. That evening, Lily came into my room. Mom, she said quietly, you don't have to fight this alone. I smiled at her, trying to stay calm. I'm fine, sweetheart. She looked at me for a long time. No, you're not. But you will be. Her voice had changed. Colder, steadier. Something in her tone scared me a little. What do you mean? I asked. Nothing, she said quickly. Just promise me you won't forgive him too soon. I frowned. Why? Because some lessons need to hurt, she said. Then she left, closing the door gently behind her. That night, I sat in the dark, replaying her words. Some lessons need to hurt. I didn't know then what she was planning, how far she would go to make him pay. But as I sat there, staring at the rain outside, I realized one thing clearly. That night had changed us all. It didn't just break my marriage, it broke our family, our trust, our innocence. And yet, deep down, a small voice whispered. Maybe it was the beginning of something else too, something I couldn't see yet. I took a deep breath, wiped my tears, and whispered to myself, this isn't the end. Not yet. Then, looking straight at the camera in my mind, at you, listening, I said softly, I'm glad you're here. If you're watching this video, please hit the like button, subscribe, and tell me in the comments where you're listening from. Because the night that broke everything was only the beginning. The morning after that night felt unreal. The rain had stopped, but everything inside me still felt soaked and heavy. The house was silent, not peaceful, but suffocating. Every tick of the clock sounded like an accusation. I sat at the kitchen table, staring at the steam rising from my coffee. It smelled bitter, burnt, like everything else in my life. Daniel walked in, his eyes red, his face pale. He looked like a man who'd lost everything, but I couldn't find it in myself to pity him. He cleared his throat. I made breakfast, he said quietly. I didn't answer. He slid a plate toward me. Scrambled eggs, toast, the same breakfast he'd made 1,000 times before. You should eat something, he whispered. I looked at him, the words spilling out before I could stop them. Did you make her breakfast too? He froze. His lips parted, but no sound came out. I asked you a question, Daniel. He dropped his gaze. It wasn't like that. I pushed the plate away. You keep saying that. You act like I imagined it, like I didn't see it with my own eyes. I made a mistake, he muttered. I laughed softly, bitterly. A mistake? You drop a glass by mistake. You don't fall into bed with my sister by mistake. He rubbed his face, his voice cracking. You're not even trying to understand. That made something inside me snap. Understand what? That my husband betrayed me? That my sister destroyed our family? He shouted suddenly. I said I'm sorry. Lily's voice came from the stairs, cold and sharp. Sorry doesn't fix what you broke. She stood there, her hair messy, eyes swollen from crying, but there was something new in her expression, something fierce. Lily, please, Daniel said, his voice trembling. I didn't mean for you to find out like that. She walked closer, her voice shaking with anger. So it would have been fine if we never found out? You'd just keep lying? He looked down, ashamed. She turned to me. Mom, you don't have to sit here and listen to him. I know, I said softly, standing up. But if I walk away now, I'll never stop running. That day, I told him to move into the guest room permanently. He didn't argue. He just nodded, like a prisoner accepting his sentence. The house changed after that. Every sound carried tension, the clinking of dishes, the creak of the floorboards, even the wind outside seemed to whisper things I didn't want to hear. Lily started eating in her room. I'd leave her food by the door, and later the plate would come back empty. We barely spoke, but I could feel her watching both of us. At night, I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every moment of our life together. Our wedding vows, the first time he held Lily, the night he promised, "I'll always choose you." And now I couldn't help but wonder, when did he stop choosing me? 3 days later, my mother called again. "Have you talked to Claire?" she asked carefully. I clenched the phone. "She hasn't tried again. She's not answering anyone," my mother said. "She's ashamed, I can tell. Maybe you should talk to her once. Clear the air." "Clear the air," I repeated, my voice rising. "She burned it, Mom. She poisoned it." There was silence, then a sigh. "You were always the stronger one, dear. Don't let hate eat you alive." But I didn't feel strong. I felt hollow, like a shell of the woman I used to be. After the call, I walked to the guest room. The bed was neatly made, the air still, the same room where my world ended. Daniel was sitting at the desk, staring at a photo of us, our anniversary picture. He looked up when I entered. "I was going to take this down," he said softly. "Leave it," I replied. "Let it remind you." He looked tired, older. "Do you really think I'm a monster?" I hesitated. "I think you're a coward." He flinched. "I know." I turned to leave, but he said quietly, "I don't want Lily to hate me." I stopped. "Then you should have thought of that before you ruined her image of what love is." He didn't answer. That night, Lily came to my room. She sat at the edge of my bed, her eyes shadowed. "Mom," she said softly, "why aren't you divorcing him?" I stared at her. "Because I don't know who I am without him." She frowned. "You're my mother. You're strong." I smiled sadly. "Strength doesn't mean you don't break, sweetheart. It just means you keep breathing after you do." She leaned her head on my shoulder. "I want to make him pay," she whispered. Her words sent a chill down my spine. "Lily." She looked up, her face calm but intense. "He doesn't deserve peace after what he did to you." I took her hand. "Revenge won't fix this. It'll only turn us into what he became. People we can't look at in the mirror." But she didn't reply. She just stared at the wall, her jaw tight. That was the first time I truly feared what was growing inside her. A week passed. The whispers began. Neighbors who used to wave now looked away. My friend Helen stopped coming over. At the grocery store, I heard 2 women whispering near the produce aisle. My name, Claire's name, Daniel's name. I pretended not to hear, but humiliation burns deeper when it's silent. When I got home that day, Daniel was waiting at the door. "We need to talk," he said again. I brushed past him. "Not now." He followed me into the kitchen. "People are calling. My company heard rumors." I looked up sharply. "And whose fault is that?" He slammed his fist against the counter. "Do you think I'm not suffering too?" I turned on him, my voice shaking. "You? You brought this on yourself. I didn't choose this pain. You did." He lowered his head. "I've lost everything." "Not yet," I said. "You still have your daughter's respect. For now. Don't push her any further." He looked at me with tired eyes. "I don't know how to fix this." "Some things," I whispered. aren't meant to be fixed. That night, I heard the front door open quietly. It was past midnight. I peeked out of my room and saw Lily standing outside in the dark, phone in hand. She was talking to someone. "Lily?" I called softly. She jumped. "Mom, you scared me." "What are you doing?" "Just getting some air," she said quickly. I couldn't sleep. Her voice sounded calm, but her eyes avoided mine. I didn't press further, but something about her tone worried me. The next morning, she was gone before sunrise. A note sat on the table. "Went out for a walk. Don't worry." When she came back hours later, she was quiet, almost peaceful. Too peaceful. "Where were you?" I asked. "Nowhere important," she said with a small smile. "Just thinking." There was something in that smile, something I couldn't read. Days bled into weeks. The house turned into a museum of broken things. Plates untouched, doors half open, conversations on fire. Finished. Sometimes Daniel tried to reach out. "Can we go to counseling?" he asked one night. I shook my head. "You can't fix a house built on ashes." He whispered, "I still love you." I looked at him for a long time. "You love the idea of me, not the woman you broke." He said nothing after that, just left the room quietly, shoulders heavy. One afternoon, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Claire standing there. Her eyes were swollen, her hair messy. She looked like she hadn't slept in days. "Please," she said, her voice cracking, "just let me say something." I didn't want to. Every instinct screamed to shut the door, but some part of me, maybe the sister in me, stepped aside. She walked in slowly, her hands trembling. "I've been going to therapy," she said. "I know nothing I say can undo what I did, but I miss you." "Miss me?" I said, laughing bitterly. "You missed me while sleeping with my husband?" Tears filled her eyes. "I was lost, okay? I thought he loved me. He said you were cold, distant, that your marriage was falling apart." I froze. "He told you that?" She nodded. "He made me believe he needed saving." The room spun. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. "Get out," I whispered. "Please." "Get out," I shouted, my voice breaking. She flinched, tears streaming down her face. Then she turned and ran out the door. I collapsed on the couch, shaking. So it wasn't just betrayal. It was manipulation. He'd turned us against each other. When Lily came home and saw me crying, she sat beside me quietly. "What happened?" "Your father," I said softly. "He told your aunt that I was cold, that our marriage was dying." Lily's face went still. "He did what?" "He made her believe she was helping him," I whispered, "helping him feel alive again." Lily stood up, her voice low. "He's worse than I thought." "Lily, don't." But she was already walking away, her jaw tight. That night Daniel came home late. He looked at me nervously. "Claire came by," he said. "I know." He sighed. "She needed closure." "Closure?" I repeated. "You ruined my life, Daniel. You don't get closure. You get consequences." He swallowed hard. "I'm trying." "Try harder somewhere else," I said, turning away. As I walked to my room, I could hear Lily's voice faintly from upstairs. Calm, measured, too calm. She was talking on the phone again. This time, I caught a few words. "Yeah, he deserves it." Then silence. My stomach twisted. I didn't know what she meant, but I knew it wasn't good. By the end of that week, I stopped wearing my wedding ring. Daniel noticed. He didn't say anything, but the pain on his face was clear. At dinner, Lily broke the silence. "So, Dad," she said coldly, "what's next for you?" He looked confused. "What do you mean?" She smiled faintly. "You've already destroyed our home, planning to ruin something else?" "Lily," I scolded, "that's enough." But Daniel looked broken. "If you hate me, I understand," he said quietly, "but I'm still your father." She stood up. "No, my father died the night you betrayed Mom." Then she walked out, leaving him staring into his untouched plate. I didn't follow her, because deep down, I agreed with her. That night, I sat by the window again, staring at the moonlight spilling across the floor. Everything that once felt whole now felt like ashes. Our laughter, our trust, even our memories, all burned away. But somewhere inside that ruin, a strange calm settled in me. I wasn't crying anymore. The pain was still there, yes, but it wasn't controlling me. I whispered to myself, "He took my peace, but he won't take my voice." Down the hall, I heard Lily's soft footsteps. She paused outside my door, then walked away. And I didn't know it then. But my daughter was already planning something that would change everything again. The fire that had destroyed us was about to ignite something new. Lily didn't speak to me for days after, or that night. The air in our house felt heavy, like it carried the weight of every lie ever told under its roof. I tried to talk to her, but she just brushed past me, quiet, focused, burning from the inside. I thought she was broken, but I was wrong. She wasn't breaking. She was building. One evening, as I folded laundry, I heard her in the living room, her voice sharp, calm, and terrifyingly steady. "Dad, I know what you did, and I know who you did it with." My heart stopped. Daniel froze halfway through the doorway, holding his keys, his face turned pale. "Lily, what are you talking about?" She didn't even blink. "You and Aunt Claire. I saw the messages. I saw the hotel charge. You didn't even hide it well." I couldn't breathe. I wanted to stop her, to protect her from this ugliness, but I couldn't. She had already stepped into the fire. Daniel's voice shook. "That's not true. You misunderstood." Lily took a step forward. "I'm not a child anymore. Don't insult me with lies." I sat there, gripping the edge of the sofa, tears burning in my eyes. My daughter was standing where I should have stood. She was saying the words I had swallowed for weeks. She turned to me then. "Mom, you don't have to be quiet anymore." I opened my mouth, but the words wouldn't come. For so long, I had lived with silence as armor. But Lily, she shattered it with truth. Daniel tried to reach for her hand, his voice trembling. "Lily, please. You're angry. Don't ruin the family over—" "Over what, Dad?" She cut him off. "Over your choices? Over how you ruined everything for us?" The fire in her eyes reminded me of myself years ago. Before fear, before disappointment, before I learned to shrink to keep the peace. She turned away from him. "You taught me to tell the truth. You said family means respect. But now I see it was just words." I thought Daniel would leave that night. But he didn't. He stayed, silent, humiliated, wandering through the house like a ghost. For days no one spoke. I made dinner, but no one ate together. Lily barely looked at him, and I felt torn between pride and pain. I found her one night sitting by her window, staring into the dark. I sat beside her. "Lily," I whispered, "you didn't have to do that. It's not your job to fix what's broken." She looked at me, her eyes softening. "I didn't do it to fix it, Mom. I did it because I couldn't stand watching you hurt anymore." Those words, they cracked something deep inside me. I'd been living like a shadow, thinking silence was strength. But in that moment, I realized Lily was teaching me what courage really looked like. The next morning, Daniel tried to apologize. He sat across from me at the kitchen table, eyes red. "I made a mistake," he said softly. "I was confused. Claire, she was just someone to talk to." "Someone to talk to?" I repeated, barely recognizing my own voice. "Daniel, she's my sister." He covered his face with his hands. "I know. I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to happen." Lily walked in then, her tone cold. "You didn't mean for it to happen, but it did. You don't get to hide behind sorry." He looked up at her, his face tightening. "You're just a child. Stay out of this." She didn't flinch. "Maybe, but I'm not blind." He stood, slamming his chair back. "You think you understand marriage? Life? You don't. Sometimes things just fall apart." She glared at him. "Things don't just fall apart, Dad. People break them." He stormed out, the door slamming so hard it echoed through the house. I turned to her, tears in my eyes. "Lily, please, don't carry this anger. It'll destroy you." She reached for my hand. "No, Mom. It'll keep me strong. I'm not afraid of truth." Her voice shook, but her eyes were alive, fierce, unafraid. The same spark I once had before years of compromise dimmed it. That night, after she fell asleep, I walked past her room and paused at the door. Her face looked peaceful for the first time in weeks. I whispered, "You're stronger than I ever was." I went to my room then, the same room where I had once believed love could heal anything. I looked at the wedding photo on my dresser, the smiles, the promises, the illusion. I picked it up and felt something shift inside me. Not anger, not grief. Something else. Strength. The next morning, Lily made breakfast. She didn't say a word, but her presence was enough. We ate quietly, the way people do after a storm, still shaken, but alive. When Daniel came down, she didn't look away. She just said, "Mom and I are going to Grandma's this weekend. We need space." He nodded, defeated. "Do whatever you want." For the first time, I didn't feel scared of his indifference. I felt free of it. Lily turned to me, waiting for my answer, and I smiled, a real one this time. "Yes, let's go." We packed in silence, the kind that heals. As we drove away, I looked at her profile, calm, strong, unbroken. I realized that the fire in her wasn't just anger. It was hope. Hope that maybe, from the ashes, something new could grow. She caught me looking and smiled faintly. "What?" she asked. I shook my head. "Nothing. I'm just proud of you." She looked at me for a moment, then whispered, "You don't have to be proud, Mom. Just promise me you'll never let anyone dim your light again." I couldn't speak. I just nodded, tears running silently down my face. In that moment, I understood. Sometimes the ones we raise end up raising us back. The car sped down the long road ahead, and I finally let the wind take what was left of my fear. Because for the first time in years, I could see a spark. Not just in my daughter's eyes, but in my own reflection too. We didn't stay long at my mother's house. It was meant to be a weekend away, a little space to breathe. But by the third day, I could feel something strange stirring. Not peace, but a storm gathering behind us. Daniel kept calling. At first I ignored him. Then he began leaving messages that sounded almost desperate. "Please, come home. We need to talk. I miss you both." I didn't believe a word of it, not after what he had done. But Lily, she looked uncertain. "Maybe he's finally realizing what he lost," she said softly. I wanted to believe that too. But deep down, I knew Daniel. He didn't apologize to heal. He apologized to regain control. Still, after 4 days we drove back home. The moment I stepped inside, the house felt wrong. Too clean. Too arranged. Like someone was pretending life was normal again. "Welcome home," Daniel said, stepping out of the kitchen. His voice was calm, his smile too wide. "I made dinner." Lily's eyes narrowed. "You cooked?" He laughed lightly. "People can change, can't they?" I glanced at the table. Candles, wine, flowers. It looked like a scene out of a guilty man's dream. I wanted to walk right back out the door, but Lily placed a hand on my arm. "Let's just eat, Mom. Then we'll talk." We sat in silence, the air thick with tension. Daniel tried to start small talk, about work, about the weather, about how quiet the house had been. None of it mattered. Finally, I set my fork down. "Daniel, why did you ask us to come back?" He looked me in the eye. "Because I love you. I made a mistake, but I can fix it. We can fix it." Lily's voice was sharp. "You can't fix betrayal with dinner and flowers." He turned toward her, his tone hardening. "You don't understand adult relationships, Lily. Sometimes people slip. It doesn't mean they stop loving each other." She glared at him. "You call that love?" He sighed. frustrated. You are turning your mother against me. You think you're protecting her, but you're not. I reached for her hand under the table, trying to steady her before things went too far. But it was too late. Lily stood up, voice trembling. You already destroyed this family. Don't you dare blame me for it. Daniel's smile vanished. His voice turned cold. Sit down, Lily. I won't. Sit down. His tone made even me flinch. The man I once trusted sounded like a stranger. Lily stepped back, shaking. You can't control me anymore. That's when I saw it. The flash of rage in his eyes. A look I hadn't seen in years, but one I'd never forgotten. I stood between them. Daniel, enough. You don't get to raise your voice at her. He stared at me, his jaw tightening. I'm trying to hold this family together, and you're both tearing it apart. No, I said quietly. You tore it apart when you chose her, my own sister. He looked away, silent. Then, with a voice almost too calm, he said, You should thank me for being honest now. Claire was lonely. I was lonely. It happened, but it's over. Lily let out a bitter laugh. You expect us to believe that? He ignored her and looked at me again. I need a second chance. For us. I shook my head. There is no us anymore. His expression changed, like he had just heard a verdict he didn't expect. So that's it? You're done? Yes, I whispered. I'm done being your second choice. He leaned back, exhaling sharply. You'll regret this, Mary. Something in his tone made my stomach turn. That night, after Lily went to bed, I went to the living room to think. I heard the faint hum of his phone vibrating on the counter. I picked it up, and what I saw confirmed my fears. A message from Claire. Did she believe you? My hands went cold. The dinner, the charm, the fake calm, it was all an act, a setup. I could hear his footstep, his coming down the hall. I quickly set the phone down, pretending to fix the flowers. He walked in, eyes sharp. What are you doing up? Thinking, I said softly. He smiled, stepping closer. You always overthink things, Mary. That's your problem. My pulse raced. My problem, I repeated. Yes, he said. If you'd been more present, none of this would have happened. I froze. So now, it's my fault you cheated? He shrugged. We all have our roles to play. The way he said it, calm, almost rehearsed, made me realize something terrifying. He didn't want forgiveness. He wanted control. I took a step back. You don't scare me anymore. He chuckled. You should. Those words echoed in my chest long after he went upstairs. The next morning, I found Lily packing a bag. We can't stay here, she said. He's planning something. I can feel it. I didn't argue. But before we could leave, Daniel walked into the room, blocking the doorway. Going somewhere? Lily glared at him. We're done with your games. He smirked. Games? You think this is a game? I stepped forward. Move, Daniel. He shook his head. Not until we talk like a family. We're not a family, Lily said. His expression hardened. Fine. Then maybe the police should decide who gets the house, since I paid for most of it. I stared at him in disbelief. You wouldn't. Wouldn't I? He said with a cruel smile. I've already spoken to my lawyer. You want freedom? Pay for it. That's when Lily snapped. You're disgusting. He turned to her, voice low. Careful, young lady. You might end up costing your mother everything. I couldn't take it anymore. I stepped between them, my voice shaking but firm. You've already taken everything that mattered. Go ahead and take the walls too. They're as empty as you are. He stared at me for a long moment, then laughed. A slow, bitter laugh that made my skin crawl. You think you've won, Mary? You've only walked into the trap. Trap? I whispered. He stepped closer. Claire and I are done, yes, but she's angry. Shut. He has proof. Photos, messages, things that can destroy your reputation. You think she'll protect you? I felt the room spin. You're lying. Am I? He said softly. Check your email. I ran to the computer and opened my inbox. My breath caught. There it was. An email from Claire. Subject line, you brought this on yourself. Inside were pictures, proof of everything, screenshots twisted to make it look like I was the one who drove Daniel away. Lies. All lies. Lily gasped. She set you up! I covered my mouth, trembling. He told her to. Daniel smiled faintly. Welcome to the trap, Mary. I looked at him, my heart pounding. You think this will break me? He shrugged. It already has. I didn't reply. I just stared at him. This man I had once trusted with my life, and in that silence, something inside me hardened. I wasn't going to let him win. When he left for work that afternoon, I turned to Lily. Pack again. But this time, we're not running. We're preparing. She frowned. For what? For war, I whispered. Her eyes widened. Mom. No, I said firmly. He thinks he's clever, but he doesn't know me anymore. He doesn't know what a woman becomes when she's done being afraid. Lily's lips parted in surprise. What are you going to do? I looked out the window, watching the storm clouds gathering in the distance. I'm going to turn his trap into his downfall. She didn't speak, but I could see the spark, the same spark from before, flicker back to life in her eyes. We didn't know exactly what was coming next, but one thing was certain. This time, I wasn't the victim. I was the storm. The smell of smoke still clings to my hair. It's strange how something invisible can follow you, even after everything is gone. That night when the fire devoured our home, it didn't just take walls or furniture. It took the last pieces of trust I had left in this family. I remember standing barefoot on the wet grass, watching the flames climb higher, lighting the night like a cruel sunrise. My hands were shaking as I clutched Lily's arm. She was crying, her small voice trembling. Mom, everything's burning. I know, sweetheart, I whispered, even though my voice cracked like the wood splitting in the fire. Just stay close to me. Daniel stood a few feet away, his face hidden behind his hands. For a second I thought he was crying, but when he finally looked up, I saw no tears, only shock, maybe guilt, or maybe I was seeing what I wanted to see. Claire rushed toward me, her robe barely tied, panic all over her face. What happened? I saw the smoke from the street. Oh my God, Mary, is everyone okay? I nodded, though I didn't feel okay. I felt hollow. The fire trucks arrived, painting the road red and blue, the sirens echoing in my bones. One of the firefighters shouted, "Everyone out of the way! Gas line might blow!" We moved back as the house that held 20 years of memories crackled and moaned like it was alive. When it was over, when the last ember hissed out under the spray, Daniel came up behind me. His voice was low, almost careful. It was an accident, Mary. You believe me, right? I didn't answer. I couldn't, because hours earlier, before the fire started, I had found the documents, the insurance papers he'd secretly increased just last month. I don't know what to believe anymore, I said quietly. His jaw tightened. You're accusing me of what? Burning down our home? I looked at him, the orange glow of the remaining flames flickering in his eye. I'm accusing you of planning something long before this night. Lily clung to me, crying softly. I wrapped my arm around her, my mind racing. That night wasn't the first betrayal. It was only the loudest. The next morning, the air smelled like ash and regret. The firefighters were gone, the neighbors too. Only the police stayed behind to make their report. Claire brought me a cup of coffee, though my hands were too shaky to hold it. You need to tell them the truth, she whispered. What truth? I murmured. She hesitated, her voice soft but firm. The truth that Daniel's been lying. You showed me the papers, Mary. The extra insurance, the sudden cash withdrawals. He's planning something bigger. I looked at the blackened shell of my house. I thought maybe he just wanted to protect us. Maybe he was finally being responsible. Claire sighed. You still make excuses for him, even now. I turned to her, tears forming. You think I don't know who he is? I just wanted to believe he could change. Daniel walked toward us then, his face pale, his shirt still smelling of smoke. Are you done gossiping about me? He snapped. Because I've got the police asking questions and I don't want them hearing lies. I stood up slowly, facing him. Then tell them the truth, Daniel. Tell them why you changed the insurance, why you told me you were working late but your car was parked 2 blocks away. He froze. The color drained from his face. I tracked you, Daniel, I whispered. You were at her house, the same woman you said meant nothing. He opened his mouth to respond, but no words came. For once, he looked afraid, not of the fire, but of me. Claire stepped between us. Enough, Daniel. You've destroyed enough already. He turned on her sharply. Stay out of this, Claire. You always wanted to come between us. Someone had to, she said, because Mary's been dying inside while you've been building lies. He glared at her, then stormed off toward the burned ruins. His voice was tight, desperate. It was an accident. You think I'd risk Lily's life? But I'd seen his eyes when he said it. There was no fatherly fear there, just a man who'd lost control of his own plan. That afternoon, I took Lily to Claire's house. She fell asleep on the couch, clutching the small photo frame we'd saved from the fire, the only one that survived. It was a picture of the 3 of us, smiling under the summer sun. I could barely look at it. Claire sat beside me. You can't go back to him, Mary. I nodded slowly. I know, but I need proof. If he really did this, if he planned it. She touched my hand gently. Then what? Then I'll make sure he loses everything he tried to save by destroying us. That night, I went back to the ruins alone. The moon hung low, silver and silent. I stepped over the ashes, my boots crunching on burnt glass. The smell still made my stomach twist. Inside what used to be the living room, something glimmered under the soot. I crouched down. It was Daniel's lighter, the same one with the engraved initials he got from his father. The metal was warped from the heat, but it still flicked open. I heard a noise behind me. My heart raced. Mary? I froze. Daniel stood in the shadows, his voice trembling, but cold. Why are you here? I could ask you the same, I said. He stepped closer, the light from his phone casting his face in a pale glow. You think you're clever, sneaking around, trying to blame me? I don't have to try, I said. You left enough clues yourself. He laughed bitterly. You think this fire fixes anything? I lost everything too. No, Daniel, I whispered. You lost me long before the fire. His eyes hardened. You'll regret turning me into the villain. Maybe, I said softly. But at least the truth will finally burn brighter than your lies. He turned and walked away, the gravel crunching under his feet. For a moment, I wanted to call him back, to ask why, how, when, everything not so wrong, but I stayed silent. The next morning, the fire inspector came by. His name was Harold, a quiet man with kind eyes. He handed me a report. Mrs. Graham, we found signs of accelerant. It wasn't a gas leak. I felt my knees weaken. So it was deliberate? He nodded slowly. I'm afraid so. I looked at the paper, the black ink blurring through my tears. When Daniel came by later, I handed him the report. He stared at it, then at me. You think this proves anything? Anyone could have done it. Except you were the only one with access to the garage, I said, and the lighter. His face went still. You're not taking Lily away from me. I took a deep breath. You already did that when you chose to burn our life down. He lunged forward, his voice rising. You don't understand. I was drowning in debt. If I didn't do something, we'd lose everything. I stepped back, clutching the table for support. So you thought you'd save yourself by destroying us? He lowered his head, voice breaking. I didn't mean for it to go that far. I swear, Mary, it got out of control. For a moment, I saw the man I once loved, the man who held our newborn daughter with shaking hands and whispered promises of forever. But forever doesn't survive when love turns to survival. I turned away. Leave, Daniel, before I call the police. He didn't argue. He just stared at me, like he knew this was the end, and walked out the door. Days turned into weeks. The insurance investigators confirmed what I already knew. The fire wasn't an accident. Daniel was responsible. They arrested him quietly one evening, outside a motel. I didn't go to the station. I didn't want to see him behind glass. That night, as I sat with Lily, she looked up at me with her wide, innocent eyes. "Mom, are we safe now?" I smiled through my tears. "Yes, my love, we're safe." But safety doesn't erase pain. It only teaches you how to live with it. Claire helped me file the last of the papers. The house was gone, but I'd found something stronger in the ruins. Clarity. I realized that sometimes fire doesn't destroy everything. Sometimes it shows you what was never meant to stay. Weeks later, I stood on the empty lot where my home once stood. The grass had started to grow again, small green shoots breaking through the blackened soil. The wind was soft, carrying the scent of new rain. I whispered, almost to myself, maybe this is where we start again. Lily ran toward me, laughing, her hair catching the sunlight. She held a small flower she'd picked. "For you, Mom." I knelt down, taking it from her tiny hand. "Thank you, sweetheart." She looked up at me, her voice pure and hopeful. "Can we build a new house?" I smiled faintly. "Yes, but this time, it'll be filled with truth." As she hugged me, I looked at the horizon. The fire had taken our home, but not our strength. And in that moment I knew, what remains after the fire isn't just ashes. It's the courage to begin again. The courtroom smelled of old paper and fear. I sat there, my hands clasped together so tightly they turned white. Daniel was only a few feet away, but it felt like an ocean stretched between us. He looked thinner, older, broken, but I couldn't forget the flames reflected in his eyes that night. The fire had burned our home to the ground, but this moment, this was where everything else would finally end. The judge's voice cut through the silence. "Mrs. Graham, do you wish to make a statement before sentencing?" For a moment, I couldn't breathe. Every word I'd rehearsed disappeared. My heart pounded in my chest, and I could feel Lily's small hand gripping mine from the front row. I stood, my knees shaking. "Yes, Your Honor," I whispered. I looked at Daniel. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I never thought I'd stand here, speaking against the man I once promised forever to. We built a life together. We raised a child. We shared dreams and lies, and I kept giving those lies until they became fires I couldn't put out anymore. A tear slipped down my cheek, but I didn't wipe it away. "I used to think forgiveness meant strength," I said softly. "But now I know, sometimes strength means walking away, even when your heart wants to stay." Daniel shifted in his seat. His lawyer whispered something, but he didn't answer. His hands were trembling. The judge nodded solemnly. "Thank you, Mrs. Graham." When I sat down, Lily's hand squeezed mine tighter. She was only 12, but her eyes carried the weight of everything we'd survived. "Mom," she whispered, "is it over now?" I smiled weakly. "Almost, sweetheart. Almost." The gavel came down. Daniel was sentenced. 2 years for arson, 5 for fraud, plus restitution. It wasn't the justice I imagined, but it was closure, the kind that doesn't heal. It just stops the bleeding. As he was led away, Daniel finally looked back at me. For a second, I saw the man I used to love. Then the guard turned him around, and he disappeared through the heavy wooden doors. The following weeks were quiet, painfully so. The noise of lawyers and reporters faded, replaced by the small sounds of rebuilding. Lily's laughter, Claire's steady voice, the hum of our new refrigerator in a rented home that didn't yet feel like ours. Claire tried to keep me busy. She always did. "Come on, Mary," she said one morning, handing me a cup of tea. "You need to get out of the house. The world didn't end with that trial." I smiled faintly. "Didn't it?" She sighed. "It ended one chapter, that's all. You have more left to write." Her words lingered with me all day. I sat by the window watching the rain and thought about the house we lost, the love that burned with it, and the woman I used to be. That night, I found an envelope slipped under the door. My name was written in Daniel's handwriting. My heart stopped. I tore it open with shaking hands. Inside was a letter. Mary. They say confession brings peace, but I don't know if I deserve any. The night of the fire wasn't supposed to go that far. I thought I could control it, make it look small, just enough for the insurance claim. I never meant to hurt you or Lily. I lied because I was drowning. I lost the business, the money, and I couldn't bear to tell you. I was ashamed. You always believed I was stronger than I really was. Maybe that's why I kept pretending. If there's anything left in you that remembers who I used to be, please tell Lily I'm sorry. I'll carry the weight of that night forever. Daniel. I read it twice. Then I just sat there, the paper trembling in my hands. I wanted to hate him. I wanted to scream that sorry couldn't rebuild walls or erase the fear in our daughter's eyes. But deep down, I also knew some wounds are too deep for revenge, yet too honest for forgiveness. When Lily came home from school, I hid the letter. Not out of shame, but out of protection. She deserved peace, not the ghost of her father's regret. Days turned into months. Slowly, I started to breathe again. One afternoon, I took Lily to the empty lot where our old house once stood. Grass had grown through the ash, green and alive. She ran ahead, spinning in the sunlight. "Look, Mom," she said. "It's not all black anymore." I smiled, tears welling up. "No, it's not." She turned to me, eyes bright. "Can we build something here again?" "Someday," I whispered. "But for now, we'll just let it rest." We sat together on the grass, the wind brushing past like an old memory that no longer hurt as much. That night, after putting Lily to bed, I found myself writing. Not a letter, not a journal, just words I needed to say aloud. "I forgive you, Daniel, not because you deserve it, but because I do." I folded the note and placed it by the window, letting the moonlight fall on it. For the first time in months, I slept without waking from nightmares. 6 months later, I got a call. It was the prison. Daniel had been involved in an altercation, nothing fatal, but it shook me. He wanted to add me to his call list. I hesitated for 3 days, then I said yes. When the phone finally rang, I almost didn't pick up. But Lily was at school, and the silence felt heavier than my fear. "Mary?" His voice was softer than I remembered, weaker. "Yes." "I didn't think you'd answer." I almost didn't. He breathed out slowly. "I just wanted to say thank you." "For what?" I asked quietly. "For not letting Lily visit. She shouldn't see me like this." There was a pause. I could hear noise in the background, doors clanging, men shouting. "I've been working in the library," he said after a while. "They let us read letters. I read yours, the one you sent last week." My breath caught. "I didn't send anything." He laughed softly. "Then maybe someone up there did." We sat in silence, connected only by a faint static hum. "Daniel," I said finally, "I don't know what's waiting for us when you get out, but I know one thing. I can't live in the fire anymore." "I understand," he whispered. "Maybe that's my final punishment, watching the one person I destroyed finally find peace without me." I didn't know what to say. My throat tightened. "Take care of Lily," he said. "She deserves a life brighter than what I gave her." Then the line went dead. That evening, I told Claire about the call. She frowned, sipping her tea. "You shouldn't let him drag you back, Mary." "I'm not," I said. "It just felt like closure." She reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "Then let it be that. Closure. You've already walked through the fire. Don't turn back." Her words stayed with me. For the first time, I felt something shift inside me, like a door closing quietly, not in anger, but in peace. A year later, the new house was finally ready. Not on the same land. We chose somewhere fresh, near the sea. The air smelled of salt instead of smoke. Lily helped me unpack boxes, humming softly. She was taller now, stronger. Her laughter filled the rooms like sunlight. As we set up her bookshelf, she found the old family photo, the one that had survived the fire. "Do you think Dad remembers this picture?" she asked. I looked at it. The three of us smiling, unaware of the storms ahead. "Maybe," I said. "But even if he doesn't, we do, and that's enough." She nodded and placed it gently on the shelf. That night, as the waves whispered outside, I stood by the window looking at the horizon. The stars looked brighter here, freer. I thought about everything: the fire, the lies, the courtrooms, the letters, the ashes. It all led to this one moment. Not revenge, not victory, just peace. I whispered to the quiet night, "We survived, Lily. That's what remains." And deep down, I knew this was my final word. What would you do if you were in my place? Share your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories.